Woo! Greetings and salutations, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're going to talk about the loop. And the loop is essentially a series of emotional and transactional events that keep us in a circle, keep us in a loop, a cycle of sorts that's extremely difficult at times to get out of. So, a thought about anything, okay, creates a feeling, which creates an emotion, which creates a behavior, which thus creates a thought, which creates an emotion, or a feeling, an emotion, and then more behavior. And as you can see, this gets to be where this is a constant loop. It's a circle. There's no getting out of it because the thoughts create the emotions, creates the decisions, which creates the thought, which creates the emotions, which creates the decision, and so on and so forth, and you just spiral out of control. Look at emotional eating or alcoholism or drugs as an example. Whenever that thought comes in, the thought is, well, I'm not good enough. That feeling is a feeling of sadness, a feeling of rejection, which creates that emotional, which is just a bunch of feelings that you've got over the course of time, which thus I am driven to something to calm these emotions, these feelings, these thoughts, which could be drugs, food, working out, sex, drugs, and rock and roll, or whatever your vice is, which thus goes right back to the thought, oh man, I shouldn't have done that. Why did I do that? Why do I have this behavior modification to do this? Which thus creates a feeling of guilt and shame, which thus creates more emotion, which creates, I've got to numb this feeling again. And you're constantly in this loop. It's a difficult loop to be in because once it becomes something that you get used to, it becomes, this is my coping mechanism. Now, why does this exist? Well, we all have this narrative about ourselves. And if you listen to any of my stuff, you will hear, what is the narrative that you have about you? What is the story that you have built about yourself from the past? From the time that you were born until right now, what is that story? And usually they fall into about 10 different containers, but here's an example. I'm not enough. I'm not worthy. I'm not lovable. I'm not safe. Those are a few of some of the most popular ones. I use popular in jest that I see in clients that I've seen in myself. And there tends to be one that's more predominant, which creates those thoughts, which creates the feelings, which create the emotions, which create the behaviors. And it becomes this loop, this cycle that you get yourself into. So now the question becomes, how do I, Mr. Buff Gandhi, get out of this loop? Because once I'm in it, it seems like a never-ending pool of I've got to numb myself, I've got to distract myself from these thoughts, these feelings, so that I don't have these behavior modifications. But I end up having them anyway. Well, the simple answer that's not easy is being able to change the narrative. And in order to change the narrative, you have to realize that you have it. You have to be aware of what that narrative is about yourself. You have to acknowledge it. Then you have to accept that you have it. With full acceptance comes full compassion for having it. In order to be able to get to a different place, you have to realize the place that you are in. Again, if I want to get from here to Tucson, Arizona, and I plug it in my GPS has to know where I am currently. I have to accept that fact. And then the fourth A of this 4A model is action. I take action against it. I then start to change the narrative about myself because I have dissolved this bullshit story that I made up about myself. That people's actions or whatnot have validated it. And I'll use that as an excuse, as a measuring stick as to why do I have it. But at the end of the day, it's made up. It doesn't exist. It's not true that you're not enough. Okay? It's not true that you're not lovable. It's not true that you're not worthy. It's not true that you're not safe. You may have not been safe at some point in juncture in your life, but to say that I currently am not safe right now is not true. And if it is true, that's a separate conversation. What I do as a coach, I don't have any solutions. None. Zero. We'll guarantee you that. Oh, well, why would I work with you if you have no solutions? You're supposed to give me the key. No, wrong. I show you that you have the key because you do. You just haven't seen it yet. And as the old song goes, the Eagles song, you hold the key to the prison the entire time. You just didn't know it. To be able to dissolve the perception that you have about yourself, to look through yourself through a different lens, a different perspective, to show you that you hold the key all along. So as what I'm doing now is I'm offering you to participate in my 16-week program where we're going to have 16 one-on-one meetings, either Zoom, FaceTime, or face-to-face if you live close, to be able to go through what your self-limiting beliefs about yourself are, what this loop looks like, and be able to dissolve it, to show you that all the things you think about yourself are not true, thus creating personal freedom and personal peace, and there is zero money that is worth. There's nothing worth more than peace and freedom. If this resonated with you, if this is something you want to have more of a conversation about, please, by all means, drop it in the comments section. Send this to a friend who needs to hear it. DM me directly. We'll see you on